Well, thank you again for doing this.
Yeah, of course.
So we had talked a little bit about, I don't know, we've actually talked a lot about doing podcast episodes based on faith or understanding scripture or applying scripture. And so I've probably outlined 3 or 4 episodes now, trying to talk about those things.
Yeah.
But doing it alone feels kind of weird, especially when it's conversations that you and I have had. And so I just thought, instead of me trying to write out some sort of educational seminar or sermon or something, that we just hang out and talk about it. But first, I mean, I don't know, this is pretty informal. We've done our interview together.
Yeah.
So part of the whole purpose of the podcast is community and encouraging each other and being there for each other on a wider scale. When we started the small group together, and then it didn't stick for at least not what I pictured it would. But you and I have always had that community, I feel like. So I just kind of wanted to start there, and regardless of what the questions are or the answers, it's still good to just hang out and spend that time together. So we'll get to that stuff. But I know you've had some changes in your life recently with work and stuff. So maybe we just start with talking about that, because we talk at our kids' sports games and when we're at dinner and stuff, and we do short little conversations while we're paying attention to the kids. But what's that been like? Because when you were on here last time, we were talked about the business side and your entrepreneurship and what you had done and how hard you had worked to get there. But you've kind of gone through a big change since then, right?
Right. And I also feel in our conversations too, it's we get into them at the sports game or sometimes or out having dinner or hanging out, and then we go deep, and then we wish we recorded it too. So,
so start recording everything.
This is awesome to be able to have just a nice chill night. Talk about this stuff and get it recorded so we know what we said. Right? You said this. But the business stuff, so the entrepreneur and changing careers was pretty big due to working on the landscaping stuff and then having faith that all the bills will be covered, and this actually deciding that it's okay to let go of something I've worked hard on. And that's what I struggled at first. And I didn't really struggle too much because me and Cassie communicate a lot, talk back and forth, and we just keep talking over things, and just to make sure we're going in the direction that involves both of us and not just one side or the other. And so moving into where she works with her and my sister, doing Authorities Plus, the DMV services, all that, and letting go of Grass Hogs and kind of joining the team over there. I feel like I turned to God for a lot of things too, all the things He gave me to process and have peace with things and trust in Him. Yeah. And this time I fully feel that I've, outside of my relationship with Cassie, that I gave it all to Him and trusted in Him that it's all going to be okay. Right. Because we lost a big part of our income. Not all of it, of course, but a big part of it to go all in to achieve our ultimate goal of working together. Right. And having still being able to be there for our kids and everything like that daily. So it was quite the experience to be at peace with something that you've worked so hard to have and build up, right, and then let go but talking with Cassie a lot and having faith just made it really easier to absorb all the feelings and properly release them all, right, and having full peace with everything. Yeah. So,
well, that's actually one thing that like one aspect of it that we hadn't really talked about when you mentioned that is like the faith part, like having faith that it's going to work out, even though it's something like you guys have never done before. And like, we've watched some other video content where this guy talks about pursuing your goals and being able to make those jumps in career changes, but having this like 12-month process to lead up to it where you're taking these steps every month. And that's a fantastic idea, but like in the real world it doesn't always work out that way because life changes so fast and you don't always get that 12-month lead up. So yeah, like you do have to release a lot of control and come to the point like, okay, well, I know this is in line with the vision that my wife and I have long term, and so we're going to make the jump. And like I said, like have faith that it's going to work out. Like, I don't know what gave you the guts to do that. Like, faith is a choice. Like, sometimes you just take the plunge and close your eyes. Like, I don't know, it might work out, it might not, but I have to do it. So here we go. Yeah. But then it's different, I feel like, to make that same step, but not be like, oh crap, I hope it works out. But actually, like, what, I'm going to step out in confidence because I believe that it's going to be okay. Yeah. Like, what sways you into that instead of fear?
What sways me into just having trust is the fact that me and Cassie talk about everything. Okay. So it just put a lot of things at ease when you talk about it.
Right.
And so we had a lot of payments on a lot of things, and to think of moving to a job where I have to lose an income and can't easily just make money, a good chunk, like every here and there. Hey, we need something. Right. I could go and pick up an extra job or something, or find some extra work for my customers and have a little extra come in when we need something. And what was hard to let that go. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, talking about it and having peace with other options, right? So like we had a side-by-side, and when we sit and talk about what our future looks like and how we want to spend our time, it was more important to join forces and build this company over here with her to create the time where we spend together.
Right.
And what was more important was that instead of a side-by-side.
Okay.
Or instead of a lawnmower payment, or instead of something else that where I would have to make more to keep and have my stuff and not be able to join forces with my wife and create something for both of us. And talking through all that helped just not be as possessive or like materialistic,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, those stuff did serve us to have fun and all these other things, but if it's going to control the way I live my life, like that wasn't good. Which I'm just having that thought now, but it's like I don't want that to be the decision. I don't work with my wife. Now, if we were probably losing a house, like we'll have to be homeless to work together, that wouldn't be smart.
But when you're able to sacrifice these small like supplements to your life to encourage the success of like the core vision of your life, it makes it easier.
Yeah, it is totally. And plus, we do talk about budgets and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And so when we sat down to talk about it, like really put the numbers down, we saw more like on the going out to eat and all these extra bills that were things like selling the side-by-side couldn't get rid of, or selling grass hogs, all my equipment could knock out, the money from that could knock out all these other things because like the truck was paid for, most of the equipment, was all paid for. So being able to just get rid of a bunch of bills for the goal of having what we truly wanted was, and talking about it.
Yeah.
Working through all that, we didn't just completely jump. And maybe it was quick because it wasn't 6 months.
Right.
It was like a couple weeks.
But that doesn't mean it wasn't thought out.
That doesn't mean it wasn't thought out, because you have these conversations with your spouse that pop up that aren't big deals. Like, oh, that'd be fun to live in Hawaii. Like, what would that take? You have those little talks. And then, like, the next time you talk about it, you built on it, and then that goes away, and, like, 3 months later, you talked a little more.
Right.
And then when you, like, you get that opportunity to, like, let's sell grass socks. We've always had that conversation. Like,
Right.
what does it mean for me? Like, is it my not my personality? It was like, is it who I am?
Mm-hmm.
And we having that talk is like, that isn't who I am because I put my wife first and my family first, and that's who I am.
Yeah.
I'm not this person who I'm only gonna live if I'm mowing yards.
Right.
Like, so we just have built on different conversations over time. Like, what would it look like just playing around? And so when it came time to really sit down and like, this could be the opportunity to move over and work with her. What does that look like? And we went over it and how could we get there?
Right.
Well, as soon as we said, like, well, if that's our goal, like, I am not committed to this entrepreneurship doing the lawn landscaping.
Right.
And made us able to talk about, okay, then what could we get from that? Or what do we need to get rid of to make this happen? And we just started walking through it. And I'm like, that's all possible. And what was weird is like, after that, I was at peace with it. And things just happened. We'd like post something for sale, like the side by side, and got more than what we owed. So
nice.
It was like, okay, this is all meant to be, you know. And so it was just easy of having the faith, but also talking with your wife about it, and not and walking through a plan of how to do it, and then what does it look like after that.
Yeah.
And so it was not out to eat as much. It was, yeah, we might not have the side by side, but I'm going to be with you every day.
Right.
And I'm going to be able to. I'm not going to stress like if I didn't finish a yard. I'm out mowing a yard, and then you need me to go get kids from school. Right. And then I'm stressing about that yard anymore. Like, I'm at work helping you now, and I'm 100% not worried if I have to go get the kids because we're working together on the same thing all the time.
Yeah.
Which makes it nice because she can get more done at work, and I can be there for her, and I can still learn the business and help grow it and be able to support her that way. It just makes, now that I'm saying it out loud, it makes a lot of sense, you know?
Yeah, I think there's certainly a lot of families who wish that they could have that type of, not only just that freedom, but that it's not even necessarily a luxury because you do still have to work really hard at it, but that opportunity to be able to make those changes and then like combine your lives more while still working towards success. You're not like, giving up things financially forever just so that you guys can be in the same room together. Like, no, like you're making time and financial investments now for the greater success in your future while also getting to spend more time together. Yeah. And I think, I don't know, as a man, it's really hard to not, at least it usually has been for me, to not like look at what I'm doing and like, okay, I am this. I am the guy that does this. I am my profession. And so I think it takes a lot of wisdom to see that, like, especially in such a quick turnaround, like, no, I'm not my business. Like, no, my business is there for me to supplement like my life and to provide for my life. And my life is what I do with my wife and kids. And so to be able to let that go without feeling like you're losing yourself, I would definitely applaud you for that because that is really hard and something that I've struggled with multiple times and always had like this rough transition period. But for you, like, you've done it really well. And on top of that, like, going back to like the communication that you've had with Cassie, like you said, like that makes the transition easier, the decisions easier, but also like what you were talking about, how it doesn't feel like it was this quick jump because for months you'll have little conversations that kind of like plant the seeds. So like, oh, what if our life looked like this? Like, oh yeah, that'd be nice. And then a month later, like, well, what would we do to do that? And slowly building that, like, that's probably one of the best things about healthy, like, open communication with your spouse is that even on the things that aren't real, like, you're building the picture of your dreams, like, in the back of your mind. Even if it's not something you're currently working on, like, on the back burner, you're building this picture of what your life could look like if you did certain things. And then when that comes to, like, a fuller picture. You're not just springing it on your wife like, oh, I would love to do this. Let's try this.
Yeah.
No, like you've both been building that together.
Yeah.
So to arrive at that decision quickly isn't quickly because you've both been communicating about that openly, even while you're not actively like making decisions or taking steps. Your dreams are being built in the background together, and I think that is super cool. And I mean, I love that about my relationship with Nicole, but I do feel like it's rare. Like it is rare to see couples communicate frequently and healthy enough to be able to do that and be on the same page during transitions without it seeming like an unexpected or jarring sort of event in your life. So again, kudos for that because that's really cool. Oh.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And I see like the same in you and Nicole too, that you guys always are on the same page moving forward and never take anything lightly either.
Yeah.
I think the fact that you don't take just doing something on the fly, especially when it impacts your whole family.
Right.
Like, and just randomly just go do it. I mean, you can do that with some things, but things that fully impact. Well, even if you do it randomly, I think you and Nicole and me and my wife have the same, like, we have each other's back. You know, the full support. And I think a lot of couples don't have full support. They say, like, yes, I love my wife to the fullest, right? And she loves me to the fullest. But, like, the things you won't see in their relationships, like, they don't have a shared bank account.
Right.
Or they do things different and here and there. And so I don't feel that they have the full dream of what I feel that me and Cassie have as an actual oneness together. Right. Like, we're doing everything together. And we always decide together on everything. It's never well, I need this so that, I can do my own thing.
Yeah.
And, the goal is always going to be together and be happy.
Right. I think that foundation of trust like really plays a big part in how you're able to like have that level of unity. But something I wonder is like, do you feel like culture or other people around you ever pressure you to not structure your marriage that way? Like, when we're so equal, we're so not dependent, but like in tune with each other, 100% leading our family forward from the front together. Do you ever feel like there's pressure, like, okay, well, if you were a real man, or like, no, a husband should be this many steps ahead, pulling his family along, or it should look different than it does? Like, do you ever feel that pressure from anybody, or just like internally?
I think when I was younger, for sure, I had the man needs to go to work and provide for his family and all those things, which I feel today is different for the fact that, like, it doesn't matter who you are at this point. You could be the breadwinner or you could be the person at home. You can be both breadwinners, and so that's helped me from that mentality. Right. That what am I providing for my family? If I don't have anything set in stone that says I make X amount. Right? Yeah. Cassie does. I don't. Nothing in my name that says I make X amount and this is what provides for my family. But the value that I have in our relationship is more than that. Yes. If you think if money's the most important thing, then you're doing it wrong for sure. So the value of loving my wife and trusting her the same way she trusts me, and we have faith in the Lord. Right.
That's exactly where I was leading it to, is because, like, as the head of the household, regardless of, like, the dynamic, as the man and the husband, like, you absolutely have a responsibility to provide for your family. But like you said, like, money is not the most important thing. what I'm providing is my time, my humility, my love, like my teamwork, and that is providing for the success of our family. And that's the whole point. Like maybe it's not this certain dollar amount that's coming in every week, or maybe it's not like, the business anymore, but at no point have you stopped providing.
Right.
Like you are just, maybe you financially provisions are going down, but the time, love, attention, and commitment is not going down. If anything, it's going up. So you're still providing. And I think that's
my value. Yeah.
Yeah,
my value
exactly.
in my family is up.
Right.
Even more because I'm not focused on who I missed every week.
Right.
Because of rain or who I need to text because of delays.
Mm-hmm.
Or not getting to a job when I promised them and I'm behind now.
Right.
And so all that stress, even though it comes with having a business, is out the window.
Right.
In my situation now because my focus is the needs of our family.
Yeah.
At the core of everything I do for the day now.
Right.
And that has limitless value.
Right. Yeah.
There's no dollar amount.
Yeah, your focus and your presence is a bigger part of that provision now. And not to say that like if somebody does run a business or they work hard, like my dad worked an incredible amount of hours and overtime growing up. He was constantly gone, but that doesn't change. Like, so he was providing a crazy amount, when it came to that, but he had to sacrifice a provision in another way. And so I'm not even speaking to like one's better than the other, but to recognize where your strengths are and chase that value. Like if you are running your business and it's going well and that is what is right for your family and that's the route to success for your family, fantastic. You're providing. Mm-hmm. If your family's in a place where a big change in transition in how you get to any sort of financial freedom or how you have that success and that involves you stepping down in some areas and stepping up in others, like great, you're providing. So I think, I don't know, the important lesson there is that like providing for your family isn't a one-dimensional thing. Like be a provider, but make sure you're doing it in the best way for you and your family, regardless of what other people, culture, society, like do what's right for your family. That's your responsibility.
Exactly. 100%. And to speak on that is find your spot in the family. And what goes back to that ego that I'm the man and have to provide.
Right.
It 100% could be your situation. You're the man and your skill set is in a manly position.
Right.
But it might be a different situation, another relationship. Mm-hmm. So my wife does DMV work. That's computer stuff, right? It's office work. It's keeping track and information and servicing customers, which is what you would say like an office lady kind of job,
right?
Or a woman job or whatever, not in any bad way,
right?
But it's also a way that provides the money that we need to sustain our family. And so that also helped me like realize money's money and it has nothing to do with being a man and providing for your family.
Right.
It's just
a tool to build out your lifestyle.
And in our relationship, she's making the work, which I help her with. Mm-hmm. But I also provide going and getting the kids. And which is not a role that should be gendered. Right. Because as a father, you do love your children.
Right. It's not beneath you to care for your children.
Yeah. Why would you not go get them? Right. if your wife's busy. And vice versa. Cassie's never made me feel or anything like she was the most important because she made the money. Right. And she can't service going to get the kids. Right. And she very well does. She has them on Friday. So I work all day with my sister at the company. Mm-hmm. If I'm doing something in the office where I can't run away, I know I have the partner that I can call and say, hey, can you get the kids? Right. And having that open communication lays a foundation of just trusting each other and realizing that it doesn't matter how we get this done.
Right. Exactly.
Whether you're a man or a woman, you're getting the same thing done.
Right.
And it's going to help the family.
Right. Yeah, we're doing it in a moral way and we're doing it together. Like, we're good. Like,
and that's exactly how you serve your wife in the eyes of God.
Yeah. And it's funny, that makes me think of, so this podcast is in no way sponsored by Jocko, unless you want it to be.
Not
sitting
sponsored.
Here drinking this Jocko, but it's like, it made me think of, I just saw like a commercial for a course that he was doing, and I listened to him a lot of, read some of the books, but he said, the three most important characteristics of leadership are humility, humility, and humility. And that like constantly stays in my brain. And applying that to leadership in your family is, for me, like just shifts my whole perspective and approach. Like, leading my family doesn't have to look any particular way other than making sure that my ego doesn't dictate any of my decisions.
Yes.
Like, being humble enough to like be there for the needs of my children and my wife, and having the humility to sacrifice my own wants or needs for the family, or take on a role that, based on whatever preconceived notions, is not what I had envisioned for myself. Everything you do, if you just ask that question, like, can humility fit into how I'm approaching this situation, which fits into life in general, but like applying it to how we lead our families has truly, like, honestly changed the way I've communicated with my wife. It has given me more patience because I am not feeling the need to speak so much, or interrupt, or get frustrated with the kids, or make sure that my side of the story is heard. It's just, it quiets my mind a little bit, and it makes me more open-minded to how our family can operate at its absolute best. So
right.
When you're talking about like the things that you are open to doing without any sort of resentment or contempt, is because of that, like, humility, because your first priority is not yourself, it's not your ego, it's not your pride, it's not what you can hang your hat on saying you accomplished, it's about the family.
Yeah.
And that is, like you said, like, that's exactly what God wants for us, because, we are supposed to love our wives the way that Christ loved the church, and that is an absolutely, like, sacrificial love.
Totally.
And not at all self-serving. So like your approach to that is literally, like you said, like that's what God wants for us. And I love that. And to see that lived out in a successful way is, I don't know, really beautiful. So I'm really happy for you.
Well, thank you. And that humility part is something I don't struggle, but I do like to put it all out there. And, I still have issues with money.
Yeah.
But talking with the wife and giving faith helps calm all those things. Right. You just, sometimes I get away with like, well, I do want things.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And that might spiral me down some, but I'm never stuck in that, because I can just turn to Cass and she'll like say, what's going on? And I might say nothing. But then I started thinking, I'm like, okay, I'm just worried about bills, or, and she's like, we're fine. We got this. Like, everything's working out and we have everything to get through. Yeah. So I still struggle with it. It's just, I think it's just not as bad as probably what somebody else might.
Right.
But just to put it out there, it's not perfect how we dealt with the situation, but those were the steps on how we stay humble about it. And work through it. And all those things. Yeah.
Right on.
And that's what I think the infinity signs for, when you get married, we're a circle. It's one circle. and it's together. Yeah. And you're not separated from each other. We're living. Right. I told her, a few months ago, I was like, I honestly feel after I pass away and you pass away, like, our souls are together. I really felt that.
Yeah.
Like and it just made me even more comfortable with like dying and all this, like, yeah. So having those connections in your relationship are very important, so that you can work through all of those things.
Yeah.
The ego that we're talking about, or identifying yourself with your career, identifying yourself with money, identifying yourself with whatever it is outside of your relationship. Probably bad. You probably shouldn't do it, but that's awesome. Okay. We have another very special. Yeah. And I like talking about it. Yeah. Right.
I know, it's like we had that all
like, don't feel bad.
We hadn't planned on like talking about that at all, really, but it's just like I think that's what our conversations kind of gravitate towards.
Well, yeah, we usually talk about God.
Yeah.
And what's number one for him?
Right.
Well, to worship him.
Right. And to
next is to worship your wife as she was him.
Right. To
so model, that's number two. Yeah.
To model the relationship with our wife the way that God wants, like the way that He designed it. Like we are showing our kids the love that God has for them and for all of us by showing how we treat our spouses. Like
exactly.
Because it says in the Bible that, like I said, like we should be modeling that relationship, the relationship that God wants with us. We should be showing this like physical manifestation of that love to our children and to everybody around us through the way that we treat and get through life with our wives.
Right.
And so that is such a huge priority. And like, I don't know. Yeah. Like, so yeah. Like
for me, it's you and your wife.
Right. So when we talk about our conversations always, I don't know, that's like the center of the universe of our conversations is talking about faith and the questions around it and some of the hope and assurances, but also like how that relates to making us better husbands. And I love that that's something that we share because I think we're both like equally passionate about our relationships with our wives. And I think I don't know I hope that it shows to everybody else around us. I don't have a huge social circle, so I don't know, but I certainly feel it in my own life. And I hope, I really hope my kids see it. So.
Yeah. Well, talking about that social circle, I spiral sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, why don't I have more friends? Why don't I have this? Yeah. Like, I've been down that road and I just realized it's because I already have my best friend.
Yeah, right.
Every day, so I don't need all that extra.
Right? That's the hard thing, because I know like I have friendships that I don't invest in as much as I should. Just flat out, like I have good friends that I don't spend time with, that I don't check on as much as I should. And I should do those things. Like it does matter. But but then when I ask myself, like, well, why am I not the friend that I think I am? Why am I not as good to these guys as I should be because of how much I care for them? And I don't know. I'm just like talking through it now. Like, I don't know if that comes from a selfish place or if it's just like, if I search my heart, like I don't feel the gap.
Right.
I'm so fulfilled in my marriage that I don't feel this like natural hole that I need to be filling with other relationships. And I'm not even saying that that's a totally healthy thing. It's good.
Yes.
I'm glad. But also like we were talking about, like, the podcast and the small group that we had done, like community is important. And like even this conversation that I'm having right now with you just builds up that confidence in my marriage because I'm getting to talk that out with another guy who understands what I'm saying and similar struggles 100%. And perspectives. So like all that stuff is super important, but it is really hard to invest in expanding that social circle because if I've got free time, like I know exactly who I want to spend it with.
Right. Exactly.
And she's right here. So like, why am I trying to make plans to go somewhere else? So that is a hard thing to balance. And that goes both ways. Like there's plenty of men who have incredible friends that they pour into deeply, and that's a good thing to do. But when they think, okay, well, if I have any spare time, I'm going to go catch up with this guy and have a drink or go fishing, whatever it is. Like, and those are good, healthy things. Whichever side of the spectrum you're leaning on, the hard part is finding balance.
Yeah.
And if you notice that you don't have that balance in your life, if you're on the other side, you need to start leaning towards your wife. Like,
Yeah.
because you're better off to be on that side of the spectrum than to be sacrificing intimacy and relationship with your wife to pour into your friends. Oh,
Yes.
And it's not even like a preachy kind of moment because, like I said, I wish I was a better friend. I really do. And I don't know that I wish I had more. I don't feel like I need a lot, but I do wish that I put out more effort.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, oh, well, my best friend's right here, so I'm going to go invest in my friendship. Like,
yeah.
So it's just always this back and forth in my mind.
Well, I was trying to think of an analogy where you're explaining that. And I think if you had two buckets, right, and if your wife's bucket is more important, right, it's like this big.
Mm-hmm.
It's huge, right? It's the most important thing. Then you have a friend over here, right? And you take a drop and you put it over here. Well, your wife's bucket's still pretty big. Okay. But a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, that bucket that your wife has is getting empty and the other bucket's getting full.
Right.
And it might grow. It might become a bigger bucket. But the thing you don't want to run into is that this bucket ends up empty.
Right.
And you can't fill it faster than she's leaving.
Right. And not even that you have to worry about, like, oh, well, she's going to leave. But yeah, like,
you're like, oh, but I had this bucket and I was not paying attention to this bucket.
Right.
And it drains you. So you have a bunch of buckets. You have your wife, your work, your kids.
But there's only so much of you.
And you.
Yeah.
You have your own bucket.
Right.
So if you're pouring into someone outside of those, and they don't understand that you have these other 5 buckets.
Right.
So like me and you, like you're saying, we understand each other.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need you to put anything in my bucket.
Right.
But I want you to know it's already full.
Yeah.
So when you call me, we're good.
We're good.
And I'm going to be here to help you do whatever it is. Get you out of a bar. Pick you up, take you home at midnight. It's a sober drive for you guys, whatever it might be. Or like the other night, when Nicole went out with us, our bucket's full. Me and you are full. So I know 100%. My eyes are locked on making sure nothing happens here. My brother would want me to do this, and it's not empty. Yeah. And I understand that we don't have to put into this bucket.
Right. And I think, so maybe this sounds crazy and I'll edit it out. I don't know, but like how I picture that is like my expectations for the needs of the relationship, like you and like guy friends, I expect, if like you're like using the bucket analogy, if like my time and love and attention is a bowl of water, I expect the relationship that I have with you and other guys to be like a camel. Like you're gonna take some water and you're good for months. Right. Like we're good. But then my wife, that's like a Labrador. Just constantly like be there. Make sure that there's access to your love, attention, and affection whenever it is necessary. That's the number one priority. Don't mean this to be like all insulting. I know it's like a silly analogy, but like I expect, and I think maybe that's why I'm more comfortable, like, being more withdrawn from my friends, because I expect, like you said, like when I make that phone call, even if it's been a while, like, hey, we're good. Like, because we've built that foundation and the standards for that relationship are not the same as the standards and expectations that your wife should be able to have of you. And so, having, like, and that's another great thing about our relationship is that we have that understanding and expectations, like, we're good whenever. Right. Go take care of what you got to take care of, because it's not like we don't care about each other. We're just like, oh, whenever it's convenient. It's just like, we just know, like, you got a lot to take care of. You have a great passion for your wife and your family. Like, and we support each other enough to want that. Like, I want you to be taking care of your wife and your family and yourself more than I want to make sure that you're checking in on me, and vice versa. Yes. And so, having those relationships where you have the freedom to not constantly feel like I got to feed the meter or something.
Right. But you can still, hey,
yeah,
what are you doing? I need to talk to someone.
Right.
That's totally fine.
Yeah.
Like, but it can't be like we need to go backpacking every weekend.
Right.
We need to go disc golf every Sunday.
Right. I think we've been talking about this like hike in Castle Christ for 10 years now, and I still really want to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like when you're younger, it feels like that is more important.
Yeah. Yeah, because
you are building those foundations.
And you might have just met someone
right
at the beginning, and you're like still like, well, I have all these friends from kindergarten.
Right. You've got more time and less responsibilities, more energy.
Yeah, more energy, no kids,
yeah.
all these other things. Yeah, and that's okay to do. Mm-hmm. As long as when the shit hits the fan, like you do buckle down. And right. You got to set the boundaries. Yeah. And I feel like if you do those things continuously through your marriage, something's different there. Like you totally manage it and go golf every weekend with three coworkers, and your wife's still gonna be home. But like, it's for me, it's the same as like I don't want to sell drugs because I don't want to go to jail. So I'm not gonna go golf every weekend just to make my coworkers happy or buddy happy because I don't want a divorce. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah. But it was doing things outside of your marriage to fulfill yourself. I feel is like you probably still have like reservations and not go all in with your wife. Right. Or family. Yeah. And you're maybe hiding something or you're trying to work through something that you should be talking to her about. Right.
I think it's funny because I think I actually talked about that exact thing like in the very first episode of the podcast. It was like doing these things outside of your home are important, and who you are as a man like needs to be expressed in multiple ways, and being able to do those things like that has value and it has a place in your life, but it's not even first or second place. Like if you are not thriving in your home, you have no business seeking fulfillment outside of your home. Right. Like if you feel like, oh, I need to go golfing because I hate being at home. I'm not satisfied in this relationship. I'm not doing this. I just need to go hang out with the guys. I'm going to go on this trip for a week. And like, you're wrong. Right. Like, you need to figure that crap out first. Right. So that, because the other things are a supplement. It's an expression of the success of your home life. And so going outside isn't going to fix those things. And not to say like, okay, well, sometimes you just need self-care or you do need to invest in those relationships, but like
your wife will see those.
Right. The focus needs to be here. Like if you're putting all of your time and attention into outside relationships, letting this one die, like it's not going to fix itself that way because, oh, I feel happier now. I feel better now because I went out and did this. Like, well, glad you had a good time, but nothing got fixed while you were gone.
Yeah, nothing got fixed, and the problem's still there, and you're going to get pissed off the next time you can't go do that. Right.
So you're both building resentment. Yeah. Because you're neglecting the actual issue. And that's, I think, another responsibility, like, as the man and having that humility and having that responsibility to your wife is that, gosh darn, I'm going to keep doing this. Extreme ownership. Jocko's book was like,
there's a reason I listened to it 7 times.
Right. Like, no matter what you feel, just tell yourself that, like, this is my fault. Somehow, and I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to find the way. Like, I know in my head that I keep blaming her. I keep doing this. I keep saying, like, well, it's because of these factors or this job loss or this move or this fight that we had, and try to place the blame on these other things. But you have to find a way, like, until you feel like, oh, you know what? That part, that's my fault. Right. Okay, fix it. Yeah. And so that is our responsibility. Like, no matter what you think is falling apart around you or who you want to put the blame on, you can only fix what you can control. So find the part that you screwed up and fix that one. And then if it's not a whole lot better, find the next thing that you screwed up. Because as men, at least for myself, I can always find something that I could have done better. Like even on my best day, I could find something that I could do better. So taking ownership and applying that to how we thrive in the home is really important. So.
Yeah, and having their perspective sometimes, I think you said this on a previous podcast, is you get that, oh, I get it now. And then you realize, okay, I'm an idiot.
Yeah, it was me the whole time.
Yeah. Which happens more than I like to admit. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But let's talk about this again. Let's see what questions we have here. I know talking about the Lord's always going to lead us back to our marriage.
Right.
But let's see. Which teachings of Jesus resonates with you most? And I'm going to come at it as a learning experience because I don't feel like I've had the same experience with the Bible and being able to retain knowledge like you have or have displayed your knowledge of it. So I want you to know I'm going to have a total learning experience. Whatever it was, I want to know.
Well, I almost puts the pressure on because honestly, like I'm certainly no biblical scholar. I'm not even like as involved in the word as I should be or used to be. Like, so I started trying to gain some momentum by doing a YouTube series going through the Gospel of Luke. And on Patreon, I'm going through Genesis. And then on my own time, I'm going through the book of Joshua and like trying to soak that back up. So when I think of like Jesus's teachings, something that I've been listening to recently was the Bible Project going through Jesus's Sermon on the Mount. But then, like, when you ask me, like, I can't really remember the lessons from that. So.
Well, then which one do you use most in your life, do you feel?
Honestly, I think.
You might have it on autopilot by now, but.
Yeah, because it's not like a verse that sticks out in my mind, I think. I think to me, what guides me in my life is like the image of Jesus and the model of his life. So as a Christian, I should have a better understanding and memory of scriptures, and I do think that's a very important tool in your life. But where I'm at in my life right now, I don't have like a verse that I really lean on. But what I do lean on is like remembering and picturing how Jesus led his life. And to me, what I see the most is love and sacrifice. Like, he knew the whole time the end game. Like, and never backed down.
Yeah.
Never expressed bitterness about it, even in like his most vulnerable moments in the garden before being arrested, like in tears, crying out to God, his father, like, if there's any other way, please take this from me. But not my will, but your will be done. Like, and that attitude of like, even knowing like, I don't want to do this with everything in me. It's going to hurt so bad. Please. I don't want to do it, but I'm not going to make the call. Like if it's what's right and what needs to be done, I'm going to do it. Period. So that level of sacrifice that was, of course, solely motivated by love, like that's the standard for me. Like, and that is what I felt like has been a calling and a driving force in my life for decades at this point, is just wanting to make sure that I'm always in a position to sacrifice for somebody if need be. And above all else, not that I don't get angry or frustrated. Like, I'm not Jesus in at all. Like, I do feel resentment and bitterness, and I get upset and I lose my patience. But like the daily choice and reminder and this picture of Jesus to love people no matter what. Like, there's people that I don't agree with. There's people that I don't like spending a lot of time with, honestly, but I love them.
Yes.
Like, period. And would die for them, like, if necessary. There's lots of things that I don't want to do. Like, I have no desire to die.
Yeah.
But like Jesus said, like, not my will, but yours. Like,
right.
So I think an important part of Jesus's teaching that has influenced my life is his lifestyle, and that his life from the very beginning was not for him. It was from the day he was born, it was forfeit for God's plan to save everybody. So what I try to remember on a daily basis, like, if I hear something happening, or if I like run scenarios in my head, because I constantly run these like worst case scenarios and how am I going to respond to this, or if I get in a situation at work that feels kind of sketchy, or I just remember, like, I live for God and I live for my family, and I'm going to do everything I can to come home to them. But like, that check is already written. Like, whenever God decides to cash in, that's it. I'm good. Like, my life is not mine. Yeah. My life is a tool for whatever God needs it for. So I don't want to give it up. I love my life. I'm very grateful for it. But what I try to remember is like how Jesus lived his life. Yeah. Like, full of passion and full of purpose, knowing the whole time that it wasn't his. So I think that's, again, I can't point to like one specific Bible verse to talk about Jesus's teachings, but that's like the man and the savior of who Jesus is. That's what sticks with me.
I think you nailed that question. One, because you know it 100% in yourself that you've been living that way, but I want you to know you've modeled that. In the fact that I've seen, every time I've asked, how did you make this decision in your life? You said, I prayed about it. Or you said, I asked God, and I took 30 days or 2 months to make sure Nicole was the one. Mm-hmm. Like, things like that. Or the way you talk about, or no, the way you just serve your family. I've seen you not get things that I know you've talked about for a long time, wanting to have, and then coming across something where you could have attained it, but you put your family first or everybody else first. And I can tell, and I can see every corner in that, what you were telling me. I was kind of all anything that popped up about you and relating to that story kept popping up in my head. It was just that moment where you said no to something because your family came first, or you took time to pray about it, like you said, God asked, or Jesus asked God, and prayed about it. Like, if you want this, I saw you asking Nicole, or asking God if Nicole was the right one. So I can tell you, on the outside, that's exactly how you lived it.
Thank you. That really means a lot, because that's something that I always struggle with and question if I'm succeeding at that. And I certainly, yes. I hope that someday I have a nice truck and a Springfield M1 and a safe somewhere. But but it's not about those things.
Full of M1s.
Yeah. Well, so coming from your perspective as someone who, like I said, from my earliest memories, I grew up in the church, and I am faith and religion saturated. Like, it has just been a part of almost every experience of my life. So to flip that and come from your perspective, what is it that you're learning about Jesus that impacts you, or something that you hold on to?
On the shorter side of it, anything great that's happened in my life, I turned to him, and then he gave it to me. And every time I try to control something, it seemed like it was never going anywhere. I could be in this, like, I was at Walmart, and I told myself, yes, I'm going to go to Walmart, and then I'm going to work at the distribution, right? And that's how I'm going to make my money. That happened. I was making money, but just dog tired every day, miserable every day, but I was making money to provide for the family.
Right. So you're doing it your way.
Doing it my way ever since I got out of high school. And that Walmart's not, I mean, that was just a 5-year span. So there's like, every time I tried to control what I was going to do for myself, ends up in the end not truly what I needed.
Right.
And when I asked him for something, he gave it to me. And that goes back to BC before Cassie. So when I fully said I want to, I asked him for like if she's the one, then show me.
Mm-hmm.
And he did. So when I put the faith into her, because I put faith into God first,
mm-hmm.
and then he showed me that she was, like, having the faith in her just proved and cements every time I ask her or I ask God, like, is this what we're doing?
Right.
Is this what you want us to do? He just, it's always comfort. It's always, there's no stress about it. And it always comes out to be a better thing.
Yeah.
It's always better every time I ask him.
It's funny how, like, the less you, like, white knuckle your life, the more peace and prosperity that comes from it. And it makes you think of, like, so when you're rappelling, now obviously I don't have a lot of experience in rock climbing or fast roping or rappelling or anything like that, but I remember, like, putting on that harness when you walk down this tower, like in training in the Army, like, you have a harness on, you've got all these ropes, and you're standing on top of the wall, and it is terrifying, and you're just gripping onto that rope like your life depends on it, because it really feels like it does. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want to fall 60 feet face first, like, and that's kind of how I feel like we can approach our lives or our relationship with God, is like, we've got our life in our hands, and we just have this grip that we're just never going to loosen up, because it's so scary to lose control.
Yeah.
But as you start to, like, loosen that grip and trust God or trust the harness,
right?
Like, okay, like, I can just relax a little bit and just make a smooth ride. Like, and we're just going to go the way that it's supposed to go. And then you get nervous and you grip again, and then everything just kind of like jerks out of control and it hurts. And like, no, okay, just relax. Stop white knuckling your life. Like, you still have agency, you still have responsibility, but relax a little. Like, just trust in the tools and the equipment that you have. Like, trust in God, trust in your relationships, trust in your family, and just go along for the ride. Like,
and it doesn't matter how you were raised or how, for you, I'm sure you knew all these things about God, right? You knew them all. But everything that made you believe in him is the same thing that I think everybody can either converts or leaves and comes back.
Right.
Is that he showed up because they asked.
Right. You see it applied.
Yeah, you just see it. He just answers you.
Right.
And when he's supposed to and when you need it. And you going through the church and all that and having all this knowledge of him, you still didn't have the faith until he answered something for you.
Right, until you needed it. Yeah.
And so I think he just worked in me that way. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, and just gave me a few blessings here and there, and realizing it was him, you know, and not me. I didn't give myself any damn blessings. Right. It only made my life harder when I tried to take control.
Yep.
And so that's interesting knowing, like, we got there at the same, or not the same, but we got to the same point, even though we had different ways of getting there.
Right, yeah, because the destination is always, like, about the relationship with God. Like, drawing into that closeness with him, and sometimes it's a fight, not because he's running from you, because so much gets in the way, including ourselves, but, like, prioritizing that and getting to that relationship looks different for everybody. But with that being the goal, like, we're talking about, like, the important things fall into place. Like,
Yeah.
I want to live the way that God wants me to live, and the best way to do that is to know Him.
For sure.
And the more I know Him, the more I talk to Him and read the scriptures and surround myself with those types of thoughts, the better these things are going to line up. And these things are really important to me. So like, I want to put in the work.
Right.
Oh, and I was reading, I think it's sitting over there, as a Man Thinketh, and talking about this concept of like your mind is a garden, and we can expand that and say like your life is a garden. So he's talking about your thoughts, like something's going to grow. Like if you do nothing, it'll be weeds and terrible things and harsh things that aren't beneficial, but something's going to grow. But if you actually put in the effort and you plant the seeds and you till the soil and you do the work and you are there and you care for that garden, like the things that you want will grow and flourish and succeed. And that's the same like for your thoughts producing good habits, and the same for your life. Like if you just coast through life and let it go, something like you're going to have a lifestyle, you're going to have a personality. You might not be happy with it though, but if you put in the work and you prioritize the right things, like it can't not produce the fruit that you want it to.
Exactly. And I'll expand on that because as you were talking, I had this epiphany, is how He worked recently in my life is giving up grass hogs.
Mm-hmm.
So now something I created, even though it blessed me and I was able to take care of my family with it, but when me and Cassie decided to be together in the same job, it released me of those responsibilities of taking care of those customers, and it gave me more time.
Yeah.
And because we talked about it and made it our end goal, each other, I think that's Jesus and God saying, yes, this is what it should be.
Right.
He said that. And I didn't have any worries about what do I mean, like, or what identifies me as in my work, right?
Right.
I just started showing up in that situation of helping out at the office and showing up. And I think that revealed something inside me that's saying, like, this is right. God He put me here to do this. We trusted Him in making this decision. In the last like 3 weeks, now that we've talked about this openly, I'm looking back on it and I've opened up my heart to, or like I'm giving me up to them, to my wife and my family. And sometimes, like we were talking earlier, when you're in a relationship and you're giving your time to someone else, and you have to come back to your relationship and give time there, it's not a strain.
Right.
It's not. So, not that I was worried about giving time to my wife or anything like that, because I love doing that. But being able to bring in a dog into her life,
right,
and not stress about having to clean up the pee or anything. I feel the movement into this new life that we're creating and being together. He has eased any worries or anything that like just dwells on you because you have to go do it.
Right.
It's a responsibility. Like there's no like, oh, I have to go pick up this. I have to go take him off. I have fully fulfilled in just the dog that we have in taking him out. I've been fulfilled in taking him out to go to the bathroom or cleaning him or bathing him, whatever it is. And I'm being totally fulfilled in going to pick up my kids to help relieve my wife. Like, and that all resonates with the way you're like Jesus served everybody.
Right.
And I think that's true happiness and true meaning.
Yeah, where you can be fulfilled and joyful in doing seemingly mundane or even sometimes inconvenient things. Like it feels good because it's an expression of love. Like,
yeah,
that's right on target.
And it has, and that's where the money is not the most important thing,
right?
Even though it can buy you a boat,
truck to
buy
pull it.
you a truck to pull it. Like it's made that stuff so small to me.
Yeah,
so small. Like, get out of here. I don't care that you lifted your truck 12 inches. It's cool.
It's cool. It's cool. I'm gonna pick up this dog food.
I'm gonna go happily pick up this dog food.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I love so. I think we're gonna keep doing this for sure. Yeah. I'm gonna wrap it up. But like, what I love is that like, we planned on coming here and talking tonight, but we didn't really. There's no outline. There's no script. Like, and sometimes like if I were doing a solo episode or an interview or something, I would get super nervous about that. But like, I know that we can just hit record and talk about the stuff that's important to us.
Right.
We're good. Like, and the things that we've talked about, like, if nobody else listens or cares, I'm still like, we're good because I think we both really benefited from the conversation, and so I have no doubt that somebody's going to hear this, and that it's not just for me and you. Like the fact that we can just sit down and just kind of open up, like, and have full confidence that what we're doing is going to help somebody else is awesome. So thank you again 100%. For doing it, though. And we'll do it again soon, and I'm going to probably wrap it up before the train starts ruining the audio.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks, brother.
Let's one more.
To Jocko.
Let's go to Jocko.
Perfect.
Oh, that was awesome.